A key part of the foundation of Islam is the destruction of the Jewish people, and that comes from the mouth of Muhammad himself. The end shall not come except a rock or a tree shall say, O Abdullah, O lover of Allah, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him. So if you look at the charters of various Islamic organizations, they are committed to the destruction of Israel, and they quote Muhammad. It's so glaring.
They quote Muhammad?
Of course, they say this is why we're doing this, because the Prophet of Islam said that this is what God wants.
But it isn't purely, or is it purely the land of Israel, or is it the people of Israel too?
It's both. The third most holy site for Islam is Jerusalem because of the night flight, and Muhammad allegedly getting on a horse named Barak when he was in, yes, our former president is named after a flying mystical horse. So it's partly because of the Dome of the Rock being built where Solomon's temple was, and Al-Aqsa is the third most famous mosque for Islam, but it's also because the Jews rejected him. So if you look at the arc of Muhammad's life, you see he was very peaceful at the beginning, and he learned from Jews about Judaism, and he learned from Christians about Christianity, and he probably really thought he was a prophet. In my gut, I think he did think that. I think he obviously was deluded, but he said to the Jews, look, search your scriptures. You will see that they speak of me, that I am a prophet. He held himself to be a prophet in the lineage of Moses and David and Christ. And the Christians and the Jews said, yeah, no. And that infuriated him. And so you can see Muhammad going in his lifetime from being a peaceful preacher of monotheism to a violent warlord who killed those who said that he was a false prophet.
So why is it so contentious to say this on YouTube? I don't know if you've tried, but...
Sure, I've had stuff taken down. People can go to my website, randallterry.com, probably go to terry2024.com, and they can see our 90-minute documentary called Muhammad in His Own Words. Now, I have a master's degree in international relations with a concentration in terrorism. So I have thousands of hours studying Islam. And the preponderance of my research for years has been Islamic terrorism. But as people will see, I never read a book against Islam. To this day, I've never read a single book that critiqued Islam. All I did was read their canonical sources. Al-Tabari, Ibn Ishaq, the life of the Prophet Muhammad, the canonical hadith. So if you just take their words at face value, this is what they believe to be the truth, the compilation of the most holy sacred books according to Islam, then you have Islam, the Quran, Sharia law, Al-Tabari, Ibn Ishaq. This is the foundation of terror. If you read the life, just the one book that people should read is not the Quran. The one book that they should read is The Life of the Prophet Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq. That is the only canonical biography of Muhammad's life. That's the only one.
Traditionally, there's been lots of criticism of Christianity and debate from all sides and all directions.
Of course. So the adherents of Christianity have made some pretty serious blunders and horrifying sins over the centuries. But the thing that, if you step back and look at 20 centuries, the reason that, like killing Jews during one of the Crusades, the reason that sticks out as so horrific, or the Spanish Inquisition, is because it is so odd. It's a wart right there. It's not the norm. If you look at the norm of Christianity from the dawn of the resurrection of Christ to the present day, the norm is suffering, martyrdom, preaching peacefully, serving faithfully, caring for the sick, hospitals, orphanages, giving food to the poor, Mother Teresa, That's Christianity. And if you look at Islam from the dawn of Islam to present, you see the overarching bloodshed. You just see killing, infidels. You can chart the original expansion of Islam in the first 100 years after Muhammad's death, and it is all by conquest, every last bit of it. And Islam would have died if they didn't have the apostasy laws. When Muhammad died, the Arabian Peninsula said, we're done with that. And Abu Bakr, the first caliph, first successor, said, no, I don't think so. You swore an oath. And he went on a rampage killing people who were trying to leave Islam and brought the Arabian Peninsula back. And then from there, they spread north and they spread west, spread east, and by conquest.
But Christianity has had its share of conquest and colonialism around the world?
Not to spread the gospel. The gospel being spread was not by conquest. So if you look at the Roman Empire converting to Christianity, we didn't have any armies. We had martyrs. We had preaching. So it's a fallacy to say that Christianity was spread by conquest. Now, were there Christian nations like England that took over India? Sure, but they didn't force conversion. There's very few Christians in India because the English said, "Look, your religion is, your thing." They were there. The East India Company was there for commerce, not for evangelism.
So where is the Christian opposition to jihadism? That's and both, when I say jihad, physical jihad and also political jihad. Where's the Christian organized opposition? Is there such a thing in the United States?
In my opinion, the greatest virtue is courage, because courage propels all the other virtues into action. If you know what the merciful thing to do would be, but you don't have the courage to do it, if you know what the truth is, but you don't have the courage to say it. And so the expression, cowards go first into hell, comes from the book of Revelation, where it says that those who are going to be thrown into the lake of fire, the first is cowards. And I think that most, I don't want to do percentages, but the great crisis in the Christian community, at least in the West, is a crisis of courage. The love of reputation, the love of self, the love of comfort. I don't want to lose prestige. I don't want to lose money. I certainly don't want to lose my life. And so I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that Islam is an inherently violent religion committed to the subjugation of the world through the sword. Even though that statement is true, it's simply true. They're afraid to say it because they don't want the blowback. They don't want the...
Well, there are organized flash mobs on Twitter and on Facebook that will flag and have the video removed or the statement removed.
Well, I've run into problems with Google and YouTube. I had somebody pursuing me in real time in the internet world when we released our 20-part documentary called What Would Muhammad Do? Mm-hmm. Only using Islamic sources and not taking them out of context, scholarly research. I have a master's degree in this stuff. I know what I'm talking about. And I had somebody in real time committed to getting me erased from the cyber world, the content erased, probably because they were a Muslim, for sure because they hated the truth. And these are people that are treacherous. They're enemies of freedom. And if you, at least an honest Muslim will say, yeah, Muhammad had sex slaves. He did. Yeah, Muhammad consummated his marriage with Aisha when she was 9, prepubescent. He did. Okay, own it. Run at it. I have to own that the Christian community did some pretty horrific things over the centuries. But again, they stand out as warts. Jesus died to start Christianity. Muhammad killed to start Islam.
So in England now, there's like a blasphemy law, really, in criticizing Islamic politics.
Yep. That's right out of Sharia law. I mean, that's the point. Sharia law is a law that is in direct opposition to English common law, the Magna Carta, the American Declaration of Independence, our Bill of Rights. the two are not compatible. You can only have one victor. And if Sharia law prevails in any culture, then you have the end of evangelism. I have spent my whole life fighting the murder of babies by abortion, my whole adult life. But what I find a bigger threat and a bigger horror, even than that Holocaust, is the subjugation of nations to Sharia law. The reason is because abortion kills innocent people. Islam wants to destroy Christianity and Judaism. It wants to enslave it. It wants to, and it, thereby taking souls to hell with it. So if you go to the cradle of Christianity, it holds Islam. They obliterated Christianity from the Middle East, from Northern Africa. It's horrifying. Go to the places where the book of Revelation addresses the first 3 chapters of the book of Revelation. It's obliterated. I've walked the ruins.
So you talk about courage. Are you taking a leadership role in some way on waking up the society to the risks that these demonstrators in the streets of America pose?
Yeah, of course I am. It's called the 20-part series, What Would Muhammad Do? And the 90-minute documentary called Muhammad in His Own Words. I've had multiple death threats from multiple continents because of the content of this. And our actor, you might remember Garland, Texas, those terrorists that were shot.
Pamela Geller?
Yeah.
Bosch Faustin.
About a week before that happened, I got a letter from Garland, Texas, from terrorists threatening to kill me. From Garland.
Is that a suburb of Houston or Dallas?
I can't remember if it's Houston or Dallas.
Its own place.
But in any event, they sent me a letter. I took it to the Postmaster General, the people that are involved in law enforcement. The lady turned white as a ghost, said, you got to go to the FBI immediately with this. And 1 week later, terrorists in Garland, Texas were shot dead. So were they the same people? I don't know. But I know that they threatened my life for creating this documentary.
Well, Israel seems to be the sacrificial lamb at this point.
Well, part of the problem that we're facing, whether it's Israeli foreign policy or American foreign policy, you only have a handful of people that are willing to say that Islam as a philosophy and as a theology and as a judicial playbook, as a law code, Sharia law, that it is a threat to humanity. It is a threat. So America is like, no, Islam's not a threat. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, if they had their way, you'd be dead. These stupid fools that are in New York protesting on behalf of Hamas, if they went over to a nation that was run by Islamic law, they'd find themselves thrown off of a building for their homosexuality. They're stupid. These kids are stupid.
You're saying the leftists?
Yes, they're idiots. They literally don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They're morons. And you got to pity a moron who's arrogant, because if someone is both ignorant and arrogant, that's like a wall and a moat. You can't breach it.
Israel has been used as a scapegoat. The Jewish people have been used as scapegoats for other religions to rise historically. Even in Christianity, Judaism was used as we're Christianity. We're not Jews. You want to be Christians? Go along with the Roman emperor. What's acceptable, and Islam similarly has used.
Those are way too broad of brushes. Just way too broad. The early church was all Jewish.
Who wanted to seek favor with Rome?
No. The early church was persecuted by Rome and persecuted by the Sanhedrin. So the Jews were making war against Christians, and the Roman Empire was making war against Christians. And the preponderance of the early church was made up of Jews.
But don't you feel that Israel's being used as a scapegoat now for the rise of Islam in the world?
Well, ever since 1948, you've got two things that happened almost simultaneously. You had the abolition of the caliphate with the end of the caliphate because of the end of the Ottoman Empire. And then you had Israel becoming a state in 1948. So those two things working together, the Muslim Brotherhood was birthed out of, we want to restore the caliphate and we've got to obliterate the state of Israel. So it's been, a whole lifetime, but it's fairly new in the history of Islam and Israel hasn't been a state for a long time up until then. So yes, Israel is being used as a scapegoat. Yes.
Israel is, but Judaism has been used in Islam as worse than secondhand, right? It was a subservient class who had to pay extortion money to not be killed.
And so did Christians under Islamic law. You had to pay a tax to the Islamic ruler if you were a Christian or a Jew, and because they were people of the book, they were allowed to practice their religion privately. Christians were not allowed to ring bells, which resonated with the resurrection. The bell is a symbol of the resurrection. The Christians were not allowed to publicly eat pork or drink wine, and the Jews likewise were forced to pay a tax, and they could practice Judaism behind closed doors. But that's Islam. They persecuted Christians and Jews, but they allowed them to at least live because they were people of the book. Muhammad believed that Christians and Jews, the Old and New Testament, were in fact the words of God, but they were corrupted by the scribes, by the monks, by the Jews who were copying the scriptures. Muhammad said that Allah sent him to correct the errors of time, and that the original scriptures were in fact true as given to the Jews and to the Christians. But for example, the Apostle Paul is hated by Islam. Hated. Because he taught in his letters the divinity of Christ, which to Islamic ears is blasphemy. God hath no son, he does not beget, neither is he begotten.
So what concerns do you have about organized Islam coming in with an Islamic agenda which is anti-American, which is anti-liberty?
You've got some communities that have passed laws that say we will never acknowledge Sharia law. Right. We will not allow it to be practiced here.
Few, very few.
Yeah, I know. It's a start. Part of the issue is being able to say the truth, unfettered. So right now, you're seeing in this new Trump era, you're seeing the collapse of the chokehold against opinions that are not liked by the left.
Political correctness?
Political correctness, wokeness, whatever you want to call it. So
the fear of Islamophobia is still strong.
My point is that the breaking of the stranglehold may result in the ability to have this discussion. So let's see if you play this whole thing unedited, so that my words are there, and let's see if it gets taken down. Those are the two things. So you as a filmmaker, I've been interviewed by people, and then they edit it so that some of the things that they didn't like, they didn't put up, and then I've had stuff that wasn't, edited, but then it was just taken down by the powers that be in cyberspace. Right. So we don't know what's going to happen literally with this interview.
Well, I know when we talked about Islam in the past, for instance, the spigot, the faucet was turned down on distribution, that it didn't rank as high as the other one that we did also. And I'm sure it's not because it's not an interesting video, but when it comes to YouTube, the public it's not being spread. They're doing it not with the government condoning.
You're talking to the wrong guy, because I'll get in trouble. I'll say things on camera about Mark Zuckerberg and about Google and about YouTube. These people are bastards. They are evil, evil men. But Mark Zuckerberg is one of the most disgusting people on the planet. And
how come?
Because he chokes the truth. He won't let people just say the truth. And maybe now he's getting a little bit of pressure, so he's going to. I don't know.
I haven't seen it reflected.
I don't know. My mind is focused right now on other things. But these people are villains. They are true villains. They are cut from the cloth of Joseph Goebbels. They are propagandists, the Ministry of Propaganda, and they are choking out freedom. And so therefore I despise them and the infrastructure that they have built. What is astounding to me is how can so many people be so stupid And the reason is because they don't have the information. They don't even have access to the information. So if you've been told your whole life that the world is flat and somebody comes up and says, no, the world is round, and you want to show them a picture, and then boom, the picture's taken down, you're the laughing stock. You're the problem. And the people who say the world is flat, they're saying it with a clear conscience, and they're saying it without malice. They're not trying to be deceitful. They're saying it because they believe it. They're saying it because they believe it's true. Your camera's starting to tilt. Are you losing your bubble going crazy?
If you declare candidacy for Congress, Council for American Islamic Relations will try to oppose you politically, right?
I don't care. Let them. They know who I am. I know who they are. I've had threats from people connected to them. I debated one of their guys in Orlando years ago, and if looks could kill, I would have been 6 feet under. So the Council on Islamic Relations is a front group to, well, they clearly the Muslim Brotherhood, but it's beyond that. It's to try and put the happy face of Islam. Every single one of their leaders knows that Muhammad had sex slaves. Okay, let's just stop. That Islam authorizes sex slavery. Now that's repugnant. And 9 out of 10 women in the West would find, maybe more, would find that so unbelievable. But if you really showed them, yeah, look, here's how many concubines Muhammad had when he died. Here's the women he took captive and then had sex with when he conquered an area. Here's the woman who was gorgeous and he tortured her husband to death, putting fire on his chest to try and figure out where money was. And when he finally died, the guy said, oh, by the way, he's got a gorgeous young wife, and Muhammad took her as a sex slave and then wife. That's Islam. And Kerr knows this. So you can't say, oh, wait a minute, this is the prophet of God, and this is how he behaved, and we're supposed to make that gap, that this is okay, we're supposed to bridge that, yeah, this is okay with God.
All they have to do is say you're Islamophobic.
I don't give a crap about that. No, I'm afraid of tyranny. I'm afraid of oppression. I'm afraid of sex slavery. I'm afraid of injustice. And that's what Islam promotes. So these words mean nothing to me. Islamophobia, what does that even mean? I'm afraid of Sharia law. I'm afraid of getting my head cut off because I said Muhammad is a false prophet. Okay, sure.
But you're not racist and discriminatory against Muslims in person.
No, it's that this is about a school of thought. I have friends who are communists. I think communism is born literally from hell. But they're my friends. And I tell them that communism it's absurd, it's oppressive, it's tyrannical. But they're still human beings who have the right to life and who have the right to enjoy liberty, and they're my friends. So I'm not going to oppress them because of their ideology, but I will be unwavering that their ideology is a threat. Islam, the ideology, Sharia law, is a threat, and it has proven itself a threat, and all you have to do is study the oppression of Islam for multiple centuries.
Your website?
DestroyTheDemocratParty.com. DestroyTheDemocratParty.com.
Are there Democrats who support you?
No.
Former Democrats?
Sure, some former Democrats, but the Democrat Party is at the tip of the spear on so many crimes against humanity, including the absurd embrace of Islam.
For votes?
See,
I
don't care if people vote for me. Go to my website, see the commercials, go to terry2024.com to see the movie for free. Muhammad in his own words. Make a contribution if you'd like to see our message get out. That'd be great. But say a prayer for our safety, please.